Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Lenni Marlina from English Department 2015. Today in this video I would like to make a brief explanation of my thesis proposal as a requirement of the thesis proposal examination. My title is a transitivity analysis of two headline news about Lewis Hamilton from two famous online news, BBC News and ABC News. Let's come to the chapter 1, Introduction. The first point of chapter 1 is background of the study. Nowadays, people use online news or social media to gather information around the world. The newspaper or online news is one of some sources of the information nowadays, and the newspaper or online news brings some influences in our daily life, and they can also bring some changes in political, social life, cultural, religions, and etc. And the researcher would like to analyze it with system of transitivity. The system of transitivity comes under the ideational function of language of the three language meta function classified by M.A.K. Halliday in his systemic functional linguistic theory. Transitivity system is a system which deals with the content that is expressed in language, all doing, sensing, being, saying, and activities that happen in the world. Transitivity deals with the experience of meta function. The researcher chooses to headline sport news into famous online news as the source of the data, BBC News and ABC News. The researcher interested using the transitivity analysis to analyze the transitivity system in the text of online newspaper to see the process type, participant function, and circumstantial elements, and also how the author of the article can affect the reader point of view. I found out that this topic quite interesting. Also, we barely can find this study in Andalus University, so the researcher hopefully can bring a good resource of transitivity analysis and also can improve other student interest in transitivity analysis. The second point is research question. The first is what are the type of transitivity on the BBC Sport headline news and ABC headline news? The second is what are the dominant type of process of transitivity depicted in the experiential aspect of the BBC Sport headline news and ABC headline news. The third point is scope of the research. This research is conducted in the framework of discourse, which is focused on the transitivity related to experiential meaning. The purpose of the study are to find out the types of transitivity system in the text. Type of transitivity must appear in the text. Furthermore, the data used in the study are taken from the text and of the online news. The fourth is objective of the study. Based on the research question, the writer has the objective of the study is to analyze the type of process of transitivity in the online newspaper text. The aims of this study are to know how transitivity has different function, different type of transitivity in clause, and to derive the explanation on how the experiential aspect that we will get from online newspaper. The last point is method of the research. The researcher choose 3 steps in the linguistic methodology of the research which are proposed by Sudaryanto. Chapter 2, Review of Related Studies. First point is Review of Related Studies. I found some academic works and I have chosen 2 international journal and 3 theses. The researcher finds that all of the previous study is related to the researcher study. The researcher will use the same theory about transitivity from Halliday. The researcher also tried to find about the process type that will appear in the text. What makes this study different with other previous study is that study will going to analyze the sport news from 2 quite well-known websites of online news. In order to know the functions of the transitivity system, and the researcher going to compare the transitivity system and also compare the point of view of these 2 news. The second point is theoretical framework. First, discourse. Discourse is a language in context refer to language in action, while a text is written record of interaction. In understanding discourse, we must analyze. In understanding of discourse, we must analyze all, not just one sentence, but several sentences so that the whole sentence can be meaningful. To start with, discourse is language in action, and investigating it requires attention both to language and to action. A discourse to bloomer is comprised all forms of meaningful semiotic human activities seen in connection with social, cultural, and historical patterns and development of use. Critical discourse analysis is carried out not on the meaning of the text, but on what the text meant and what they get from that meaning. In critical discourse analysis, discourse is social action, social practice, social action in constructing social reality. Discourse is the use of language, language in use, and the language in action, which includes text, both spoken and written text. And further study about discourse using grammar, we can use the systemic functional approach. Systemic functional linguistic. In systemic functional linguistic, who was developed by Halliday, discourse analysis related with grammar and social theory. Grammar is used to identify wording's role and the structure of the words in the text. Meanwhile, social theory is used to explain what the meaning of the wordings, and this research is focused on the ideational function in the experiential function, then realized by the transitivity system. Transitivity system make humans create mental image and facts to find out their external and internal events that make the experience to create process. This systemic functional linguistic divided into three metafunctions. The first is interpersonal metafunction, textual metafunction, and ideational metafunction. And transitivity system. Transitivity system belongs to experiential metafunction and focus on the clause in which is viewed as the representation of human experience in reality through the process. According to Halliday and Mathiesen, the experiential function allows language users to present their world experience through the lexicogrammatical choice they make, which are part of the transitivity system. This language choice allows them to use their own expression in constructing the idea. Type of process. The first one is material process. This material process is the process of doing something. They express the notion that some entities, someone or something, does something which done with two main participants. Two main participants in this material process are actor, the one that doing material process, and an obligatory role in the process, and goal, a participant impact by doing, which may or may not involve in the process. The second type of process is mental process. This process is one of process of sensing, feeling, thinking, and perceiving. The participant of this process is sensor and do sensing, having feelings, perceiving, and thinking. Phenomenon that which is thought, felt, or perceived by conscious sensor. There are two kind of phenomenon. The first one is phenomenon act. Is the process of perception, seeing, hearing, noticing, and etc. And then phenomenon fact. Effect that embedded, close, usually finite, and usually introduced by that. And third is verbal process. This process are the process of saying. The participant of this process is sayer, receiver, verbiage, and target. The next one is relational process. Relational process are related to events that are still ongoing or the process of being. In a relational process, there are two types of clauses, identifying and attributive. The next one is behavioral process. These behavioral process are the process of physiological or psychological behavior. For example, breathing, snoring, laughing, watching, listening, pondering, and dreaming. Participants in this behavioral process are behavior, is typically a conscious being, like the sensor. The process is grammatically more like one of doing. The participant is analogous to the scope of a material. We shall call it behavior, and another participants in the process, behavioral, which is not described in another way from the process, is called a phenomenon. The next one is existential process. Based on Halliday and Matthiesen, state that this process represents that something exists or happens. Is circumstance. Halliday states differentiates circumstance into four types based on their purpose in a clause. Those are enhancing, extent, location, manner, cause, and contingency. Second one is extending, that accompaniment. The third is elaborating, and the last one is projection. There are several types of circumstance: extent, location, manner, cause, contingency, accompaniment, role, and matter, and angle. I think that's all of my presentation. Thank you for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.